Hey everybody, it is your boy Cat the Hunter coming at you again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys help your brother out and hit that rate, subscribe, and share button when they bump up the subs and all that. I thank you guys for all your love and support. People have been asking me where I'm at, what am I doing, and things along those lines along the way. And I really appreciate the love and all that. I am a busy brother. I would like to make more videos and put out more content. However, it's just that not been in the cards right now. But I think that there's a few things that are really important that we address, that we talk about. That way we can get on one accord and really try to help each other out. And so you can see in the middle of the screen there that LMH Consulting Services is the name of my company. That's my logo. I'm really going to be pushing that in the next few days, next few weeks, because I'm doing consulting services, police expert testimony, life coaching, things along those lines. So I really want to push that, make sure that we're all on one accord. I have been thinking about a lot of rebranding that's going to be going on with the podcast, as far as making sure that I really focus more on so-called men's issues, not so-called, but men's issues, because I think that that's vital as far as helping the community to get together, right? Or to get itself together. The tagline of my podcast has always been bridging the divide between the police and the communities that they serve. So I think it's really important that I continue along those lines. And one thing that I really come to understand is that the importance of men, maleness, and strong leadership is certainly required within the community. Not saying that femininity or ladies don't have a place and have a point, but if we're going to get our brothers together, right, because it's the brothers who are shooting each other on corners, it's the brothers who are the most likely to commit suicide, it's the brothers who are suffering, brothers who are not doing so well in school, right? Kids are reading at below their grade levels, all these different issues and problems. And I think it stems from a lack of leadership amongst men. Men really have to step up. So therefore, I'm really going to make a concerted effort to try to change, or to try to lend my voice into a lot of these different things. When we get into more life coaching, more speaking engagements, things along those lines, because I really think it's really vital and important. And speaking of protecting our communities, we understand that within the last few days, there has been some more disturbing events. We should never ever fall asleep and realize and recognize that just because we haven't talked about it in a few months, or there seems to be a lull, or there's a new president, or we're focused on the economy, or on abortion, or on infamil, milk for children, or the war in Russia, or in the Ukraine. All these different types of things should not ever get our attention completely off of the elephant in the room, and that is the number one homeland security issue, which is domestic terrorism. White, radical, racist, domestic terrorism is I'm quoting from the Homeland Security, National Security Agency, FBI, all these different intelligence agencies are all telling us that the number one threat to national security is domestic terrorism. And so therefore we've got to make some changes to this. We've got to make our own changes and understand this very clearly, and understand this very well. There is no plan. No gun reform, no banning of stocks, nothing. There is no plan. The plan is to string us along. They're not going to give up the money. As far as how much money goes into the gun manufacturing business, the politicians who are just too far to the left don't want to allow you as the consumer to protect yourself. If we look at what just occurred in Buffalo, New York, New York is one of the toughest states to get a gun permit, gun license for. They want you to have 4. I looked it up last night. They want you to have 4 references. Now think about that. This is a right. I'm really going to do some research, and I haven't done it yet. So I could be wrong. Maybe someone who's more into gun so-called culture, gun laws and things can really educate me until I get my research done as to the history of the evolution of gun rights. I've read about the Second Amendment. I read a book. I've recommended a book called Loaded, the Disarming History of the United States and the Second Amendment. by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. I really recommend that people get that. But the evolution of how it came from those colonial, pre-colonial, immediately post-colonial times into to the modern era, and all these different gun advocates. I know there's been advocates on both sides, lobbyists on all sides, advocating for this type of thing. But where does this come from? Where does this come from? Well, all these different things you got to get, right? This is supposed to be a constitutional right. How is it that we don't have the constitutional right to get that? Do you have to get, in the state of New York, do you have to get 4 references or provide the state with 4 references before you can get your driver's license, which is a privilege, which is a lesser degree of your ability to be able to operate and live? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's going to be my own project that I really need to answer for myself. So there is no plan. Understand that. There is no plan to lessen up on these rules and restrictions. There's only more plans to lock down. So you can't protect yourself. So you can't protect your family. The only thing they want you to do is run, hide, duck, and cover. They don't want you shooting back. They don't want you to have a deterrent. They don't want you to have that. I think it's asinine. I think it's crazy. New York is one of the states that you can't carry. You can't use your license from Connecticut or Vermont or another surrounding state to go into that state. Now, that New York is not an anomaly in that. They're not the only state that doesn't provide that. But I think that at this particular point in time, it's really, really silly. It's really, really silly. We have to understand that our lives are at stake, right? They're shooting up schools. They're shooting up daycare centers. They're shooting up military bases. They're shooting up places of worship, places of business. There was long ago they shot up a community meeting. I believe it was a legislative town council meeting. It's madness right now. There is no plan. So we have to talk about this plan and what we're going to do. This is what this is about. The plan that you have to make, because the government, local, state, and federal, there is no plan. So here we can see I got a couple slides here. Here we can see that the Buffalo suspect had threatened his school last year, right? So he had done some reading about all this different information is coming in. He had these mental thoughts about killing people and all that. They took him seriously, took him seriously, admitted him to a hospital for a little while, and then allowed him to roam free. It's just complete madness as to what's going on here, right? Buffalo shooting wrote plans 5 months ago, messages show, right? So he's been advocating for this. He's been just doing research 5 months in the making, taking his gun, writing on it, talking about here's your reparations, here's all this stuff, right? So here's another angry white kid. Here's another angry white kid, white boy, 18 years old, who hasn't experienced many of the things that a 35 to 40-year-old or 50-year-old white male would have experienced, but yet he feels disenfranchised. Yet he feels as if he's losing his country. He feels as if African Americans and Hispanics and Latinos and Jewish kids are all getting a little bit more than him, or have a fairer shot, or have access to more education, or whatever is going on in his mind. He really, really believes that. And so therefore he takes it to it. 5 months of writing out plans, 5 months of writing out a manifesto, acquiring the Kevlar and other items in order to go about his binge here. We've been woken up before with Sandy Hook. We've been woken up before with Columbine. We've been woken up before, but somehow we lull ourselves back to sleep. And I really think it's time for a concerted effort and push to get these politicians out of the way. They are the problem. Writing more restrictive gun laws that would stop you and I from being able to protect ourselves is untenable. The Buffalo supermarket suspect allegedly posted a manifesto, Great Replacement Theory. What is the Great Replacement Theory? The Great Replacement Theory is this idea that came about around 2009 or 10 or 11, somewhere around there, with some French guy talked about how many Islamic people were moving into France and all this type of thing, or Arabian, Middle Eastern type persons were moving into France and they're taking over, right? And it's a great replacement theory. They're going to take us over. Our birth rates are low, and it's their fault. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our women. They're taking everything, and they're doing it for votes. Tucker Carlson and Fox News has been a proponent of this, and there was a senator or congressman from Iowa who was saying crazy stuff about this. And so it's really, really madness. But people are listening to this and they're fearful and they're acting out. If we think that we can be lulled to sleep by this, we cannot and should not, right? So here's another article talking about the KHN in the morning, spotlight and failure of mental health system to stop the accused Buffalo shooter. So we can't be lulled into this whole, it's always just mental health, right? If a one white male starts to do something, then there's the reluctance by the newspapers, reluctance by other individuals to call it terrorism. And that's exactly what it is. He is a terrorist. He is a terrorist. And this reluctance to call him that, when you incite fear and you go about slaughtering individuals in order to create that sense of fear, that is the definition of terrorism. That's what it is, right? According to the UN, the FBI, all these different organizations, even though terrorism is a difficult concept that they go back and forth on how they want to define it, one of the main attributes of it is attacking population centers, innocent combatants, civilian targets, in order to create fear or persuade them to do something, to persuade the government to do something, to get them or to stop the government from doing something. Those are the essential elements of what terrorism is, and that's exactly what this man does. When he seeks to kill these individuals to create a sense of fear, a sense of dread within these other members of the community, that is terrorism. Thus, fear, terror, fear. Again, talk about the ADL. This is the Antidefamation League. Their great, explanation as to what the great replacement theory is. Remember those idiots running around in Charlottesville, talking about Jews will not replace us, you would not replace us, right? This is what they're fearful of. Shout out to Liz Cheney, who blasts fellow Republicans after the mass shooting. They're not doing enough. And there is no plan to do enough. I appreciate her, and others I'm sure will appreciate her for trying to do something, but it's not enough. It's not enough, and there is no plan to do anything more. There is no plan to do anything more. Let's see if I can make this a little bit larger here. This is just about Sandy Hook here. The problems and the issues that were going on with that, and the lack of action by the government in that situation as well. So here's a guy who was a gunman from California. He himself looks to have some Asian descent in him. I haven't read this story, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But there, they targeted a majority Taiwanese church. So your religion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Protestant. They've gone to churches and slaughtered churches as well. Remember, in some place in Texas there was another slaughtering of the church in a year or two ago or something along those lines. So. Just madness, just absolute madness. 2 years after the Walmart shooting, El Paso leaders see inaction and betrayal by Texas officials. Listen, there is no plan to do anything. There is no plan to do anything. Remember the Pittsburgh synagogue, Army major in Fort Hood, and all that. So, interview with a psychologist. Explains mental health impact of racist Buffalo shooting. Listen, this is the terror, right? When we're fearful to go to the mall, go to the store, go to daycare centers, go to churches, synagogues, this is the terror that they want. They want us fearful, huddled in our homes, living in just complete and utter terror and dread and fear of moving around. And that's what they want. That's what they want. So what is the plan that we should take? The plan of action is every church, every community center, every place, and when I say church, I mean mosque, temple, whatever it is, should really develop an action plan for how your civilians should have or interact, where they should go. You should have safe centers, go through locked door, lockdown procedures. Schools have been doing it. If your church doesn't have that, your community center, your daycare center doesn't have any of that, it's time for you to develop those plans in order to do that as well. If you should have particularly churches, temples, mosques, where there may be a larger male presence, you need a few responders who are armed Go get your permit. Do what you got to do. If you're in New York, you know, whatever more liberal states, do what you got to do. Figure it out, and then work with law enforcement. Work with persons such as myself. I'm certainly glad to work with people. Work with people who have some expertise and develop action plans and develop plans about how to interact and how to keep your community safe, because they're not going to do it. I'm talking about the legislatures. Not that law enforcement or the government doesn't have the tools. They just need their handcuffs taken off in order to really respond in the way they need to respond, and to go after them with the same ferocity and the same intensity that they went at the Black Panthers, the same ferocity and the same intensity that it went after Malcolm X, the same ferocity, the same vigor that they went after CORE, SNCC, Martin Luther King. All these other organizations are making sure they broke them up. That fervor is not there, and it's time for that to change. But until it does change from the government, we have to take our lives in our own hands, protect ourselves, protect yourself. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Terror and dread, we can't let this become fearful to us. Protect yourself. If you don't have a permit, it's time to get one. If you're not carrying all the time, it's time to do it. And listen, these people are gearing up. They're gearing up, getting Kevlar vests and all that kind of stuff. Again, the government should be tracking that kind of stuff. Who's buying Kevlar vests? Knocking on people's doors to get it. How are you getting it? And all that. All this missing ammunition. From missing guns and ammunition from stockpiles. There was a big scandal, I think, in Sacramento. I believe it was in Sacramento, California. All the stuff was missing. It's time to figure this stuff out. So it's time to track these people down and get it done. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts. Give me what you're planning to do about it. If you need help with that, make sure you reach out to me. And all that, and I can certainly help you out along the way there, and we can develop some action plans, particularly if you're in the Northeast area, if you're in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Mass, or wherever. You want to fly me out there you want to fly me out to your city, your state, in order to help you out, I'll certainly be more than glad to take that trip. But it's time. It's past time. It's past time.